Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño and today's topic, when there is no photo to be taken. It turns out that many of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel, so please subscribe down here on this side and hit the little notification bell so you get videos, you get updated when videos pop up. And if you end up liking this video and it's useful to you or you enjoy it, please like it down below. Let's get started with the video. It turns out in history, and you've probably seen paintings in museums and so forth, there are some paintings that probably should never have been painted. And there are sculptures that should never have been sculpted. And to the same effect, there are photographs that should never have been taken. Now, I know this can turn out into a philosophy topic where people say, you can't really say that, Juan, because if you're walking through a really boring place and it's a gray sky and there's nothing to photograph and you photograph a garbage bag in the corner of the street, well, you've just documented history, right? You documented what was going on in that corner at a particular time. Yes, I realize that. I'm not going to argue that point, right? If that's the kind of photography that turns you on, then, go ahead, enjoy it, right? But for the most part, we paint a picture in our head of what we want when we go out looking to take pictures. And we get to the location and then we kind of feel our way around and we start working, right? We start having fun. And I'm not sure that it's anybody's aspiration or goal to shoot a garbage can sitting in the corner or a garbage bag sitting in the corner, maybe a garbage can. But you know where I'm going with this, right? Most of us have a very intricate plan and sometimes the plan isn't so intricate. It's basic, right? It's documenting things we see along the street as we move, but along that heap of garbage might be a homeless person or might be a Ferrari, right? Contrast. So it's not just a heap of garbage, right? So rarely are we just going to document that unless we're doing a documentary on garbage and how it collects in the cities or whatever. So let's switch to other fields, and I do that many times in our videos just to form some analogies. So let's go to Hollywood. Say I'm a casting director and I'm hiring for a movie. Well, it's my job to have a clinical eye, right? In order to pick the right actor or actress for a specific role, and for many roles for that matter, right? And so what ends up happening is, first, and we don't usually talk about this, is I have to know what I'm looking for, right? I have to know what I'm looking for. That's step one. Number two is you use this clinical eye, which is a combination of experience and maybe a little creativity inside of you and people's skills and whatever it is for the Hollywood director. And you're looking at this actor, actress, and you're seeing how they act and you're trying to decide if they're right. So it ends up being a type of interview. We can say the same thing about corporate America or corporate anywhere for that matter, right? If I'm a hiring director and I'm sitting in front of a candidate, then it's a type of interview where I'm using my clinical eye to decide, and knowledge, of course, right? I didn't talk about this, but it's that, and that's where I mentioned experience when you're hiring an actor or actress, right? In this case, it's some kind of education about the role that they're trying to fit into and deciding if they have the basics. Now, there's probably going to be a technical manager that's going to look at them later on to see if they have those technical skills, but to some degree, the HR manager or director is going to be able to decide if they're a good fit for the company, right? So it's a type of interview where you're using that clinical eye, which combines a lot of experience about people. And you have to, again, start by knowing what you're looking for, right? So you know what you're looking for, and you take this clinical eye that you've developed over time, and you interview this person, and you decide if they're good. So as photographers, it's no different, right? We first know what we're looking for. So we have an idea of maybe the location. We've seen it on the internet, or we've seen it in, pictures from our friends or travel brochures, or we've been there already. And this time we want to go take beautiful pictures. So we have in our mind the location, right? If you live in a city, if you live in a town, then maybe you've walked or driven by there and you want to go back and capture it. So you use this clinical eye along with the experience, which is a combination of experience, knowledge of photography, knowledge of lenses, knowledge of composition. Everything that you've learned over the years becomes a type of experience, forms into a type of experience, and it gives you this clinical eye, which with creativity you're going to use to capture this image that you're there to look for, right? But you have to combine this other aspect too, which is, remember we talked about the interview process? So as photographers, what is the interview process? Well, we know the location more or less, right? We know where it is. And we have an idea of the type of pictures that we want, right? And we don't want to be too specific because then we limit ourselves. You want to keep it kind of broad, right? And so you don't want to go to a place saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to take these beautiful sunsets, because if it's a cloudy day, then you're ruined, right? And you can still capture clouds, and you can still capture rain and like a overcast sky that looks really dramatic if you keep your mind open. But if you focus too much on one particular thing, then you kind of kill it for yourself. So assuming our mind is relatively open, we know the location, we know about it, we're ready to, show up with our camera. Well, what's the interview process? The interview process is basically us walking around, driving around, scoping the location. If it's a mountain, going up a little, going down a little, checking different elevations around certain, bends to see what's there, what can we capture, is it a better angle? Do we have some mountains in the background? So that's the interview process for us as photographers. The important thing to remember is that sometimes there is no painting to paint, or there is no person to hire for that position, or there is no photograph to take. It's that simple. Now, does a casting director give up? Do they interview 50 people and say, oh, I didn't find anybody, the movie's not going to happen? No. So when I say there's no person to hire, well, you got to come back and you got to do it again later, right? If there's no person to hire for a corporation, then that day turned out to be a dud, and you have to try again the next day and see if you can find a candidate that fits that role. And if you're a photographer, you get there and it's just not what you imagined. It's not what you're expecting. It's nothing. It's too rainy, and you're all wet, or you're uncomfortable and your camera's getting damaged. Sometimes you just have to learn to accept, sometimes I have to learn to accept that the picture needs to happen on another day. I like to tell little stories. So when I was younger, I used to shoot film, and I would, I lived in Queens, and I would take trips into Manhattan, which was, 30, 45 minutes, depending on the day and the time, train ride. And I take a train into the city, a subway, and I take, depending on, how much money I had, right? I used to buy professional film, and it was more expensive than regular film. Regular film you can get for $2 a roll if you really, were cheap and you didn't care too much about it. A good roll was $3.50, and a professional roll could be $9 or $10, right? So I would buy, save up for about 2 or 3 of those rolls, 36 exposures each, and that's what I had going into the city. Now, I didn't go with a type of picture that I wanted to take. The city is huge. New York City is huge, right? So I just went looking for cool things that caught my eye. And, whatever the reason, maybe I wasn't in the mood, maybe the sky wasn't right, maybe whatever it was, it just turned out to be one of those days. It was probably me more than anything, right? Where you shoot a picture and you didn't have a little screen to look at the back of your camera, so you didn't know till you got home and you got those developed. But I knew. I'd take a picture and I'd say to myself, okay, let me get warm, right? I'm starting up. Let me get warm with a couple of pictures. I look for creative things on big cathedrals and churches with the fences and all kinds of shooting through the fence and shooting across it and blah, 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 going to the river and looking at bridges. And for some reason, I knew that I probably would be better off taking the train back home and using that time for something else. But you know what? I was already there. The film was with me. The camera was with me. Let's do it. And I spent all this money developing professional film, and it turns out I was right. I didn't really get anything. Now, did I get 1 or 2 pictures? Maybe there were a couple of pictures that were worth taking, but I could have taken those any day, right? So I think we have to just accept sometimes, right? When we get to a location and it's, not quite what we imagined, that we can use that time for something else. Again, there are people that are going to say, you're wrong, Juan. You should take the trip anyway because you never know who you're going to meet on the way there. And yes, I agree. That's another aspect that we're not really talking about here, right? I'm not telling you not to take the trip, right? If you wake up and you look at the sky and you go, New York's not going to be so cool today, so pretty. Maybe I should stay home. Well, take the trip. All I'm saying is when you get there and you set up your tripod and you're looking, especially with a digital camera, right, where you can see through it and you can take a picture and see the results. And that's what I meant to say when I say see through it. I mean, you can see through any camera. So you see the results and you go, you know what? Nah, not today. This is not the day. Now, you can hang out in the city, right? You went to the city. You may have met some cool people on the way there in the train, and you may meet some cool people at the pub, right? We call it a bar here in the States, a pub in Europe. So I'm not telling you not to take the trip, but just be cautious about what you end up taking. Knowing that the camera is not supposed to fire a shot is just as important as knowing when it is supposed to fire a shot. A shot saved in the field is time saved in the lab. So basically, don't force the issue, right? And that applies to everything in life. There are martial arts that are geared around that concept. You don't force the issue. You don't make something happen. You don't hit the person where you want to hit them. You hit them where they want to be hit, where they open themselves, right? That's where you hit the person. That's how you take them down. You take advantage of things they're giving you, right? So when you go with your camera to a location, don't force things to happen. Let them happen. If the moment is right, if the scene is right, if your mood is right, then take advantage of all of that and take beautiful pictures. If you're not feeling quite right, you kind of forced yourself to get out there because you haven't shot in a while, or the weather's crappy, or whatever the situation is, you ended up taking the wrong lens and you're going to try to make it work, but it's really not working because, you know, it's a slight telephoto and you need a really wide angle to capture the scene. There are things you can do, of course, right? But at the end of the day, the decision should be, you know what? This is not working out. I'm not feeling it. And just, that's all I'm saying is learn to accept that. It's not right or wrong. It's not about whether you're going to take the trip or not take the trip. If you want, you know, walk around with your camera. I used to do that a lot. I'd walk around with my camera and I'd end up taking the coolest things and my dad always said, good photographers always carry their camera. Now I have this camera that I'm filming this video with, the Canon M6 Mark II, and it's a beautiful camera. I can stick a 22 millimeter lens on there, and which is equivalent to like a 35, and I could walk around any city or town or any place in the world, 32 megapixels, and I could take simple, beautiful pictures without drawing too much attention, right? We all have the ability to do that these days. And we can get an affordable camera and just keep it, you know, everybody uses the phone now. And I would say use the phone if that's what you want, but you don't really get the same thing with a phone that you do with a camera. And I've had this conversation with many, many photographers. Cameras are getting so good. Their software is ridiculously good, but you still can't beat the clarity of a camera. And you can't beat the true megapixels, and you can't beat the depth of field, true depth of field, without using software to blur the background. So many advantages to a camera. So it doesn't matter whether you decide to use a camera or your phone. Just, you know, don't keep it in your pocket. If you're walking around some interesting places, keep it in your hand and don't hesitate to use it. Actually, give yourself a quota too, right? This is a little sidebar, sorry. This is a little sidebar to the topic, but give yourself a quota. If you know you're going to walk into a cool place, say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to take at least 20 pictures in here. Or, you know, your friend's taking you to see a really cool site. Tell yourself, you know what? I'm not leaving that site without taking 20 or 30 pictures. That forces you to kind of, you know, be a little more aware of the location and the fact that you're carrying a phone or a camera. And if you think I'm crazy for saying, you know, it's not always the right time to take a picture, think about photographers like Ansel Adams. Now, some people might say, yeah, but he's crazy. You know, he did things that nobody else does. Well, but then all of his pictures are in museums, right? So he must have done something right. And I respect that, right? Even though I may not agree with all of his approaches, right? One of the things he did was he would get to a location and he would wait up to 1 month to take the right picture. And he would just camp out in his car. Now, sometimes it was close enough that he could go home in the evening and come back. Sometimes it wasn't, right? And he'd have to figure out to constantly shop for food and go to the restroom and shower. And he and his wife did this together many times, and they would wait as long as 1 month. So it is not always the right time to take the picture that is going to move you. And we just have to know that. We have to accept that. Even Ansel Adams believed it because he'd wait 10, 15, 30 days for the right ambience, for the right environment, for the right clouds. Whatever he was looking for, he waited. So as a conclusion, you know, photography is about capturing a present moment and freezing it in time. Nobody's arguing that. All we're saying here is some moments are not as exciting to capture and freeze for eternity, right? They're just not. And those that are, snap away. Because if we walk around capturing just random moments, they don't really stand out from any other moment, right? The moments we want to capture are very unique. That's why street photographers will sit somewhere many times and just wait for the right person to pass through a scene. They already know the scene. They have the shadows lined up. Everything is the way they want it. But it doesn't say anything. It's no different than any other picture, right? And then a regular person walks by and it doesn't say anything either. And I joke about this in other videos. You get the old man who's 75 years old and walks by with a big pink hat. Ah, that's different, right? You don't see that every day. Let's capture that. And, you can capture anybody really, right? And many times, if you just want to capture the scene with a person, that's fine. But making it special is what we do as photographers many times. And sometimes we do that with the camera, and sometimes we do that in editing, right? And post-production. So however you do it, it's about making it special. So don't just think that you are going to go out, and because you're out there already, you're going to capture random moments, because then you're going to get home and you're going to be disappointed. And so if that happens, just know, okay, I didn't really need to take these pictures. I know for next time. And that is it for today. Not a long video. I don't want to, beat a dead horse. If you enjoyed the topic, please like below, subscribe to the channel again, so that I can let you know when new videos come out. Hit the little notification bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. Please take care of yourselves. And until the next time, ciao for now.